I guess things. Well, there's a big head. Welcome back, Patty O'Malley. Can you hear me okay still? I got you muted now. You are muted, sir. Spetta, spetta. Speaker. Mm. Can you hear me? Hey, KG, I have everything hooked up right. I just heard you just fine. Oh, there you are. You're muted. You were muted on the digital. Okay, welcome back, Patty O'Malley. I'm Sally O'Malley. I'm 50 years old. You ever see that? Saturday Night Live?
You're going back now. You're aging yourself.
Yeah, that was Molly O'Shannon, one of the most talented comedians ever come through Saturday Night Live.
For a second there, I thought you were going to turn into the pirate across the seven seas that you were for a little while there.
No way. Just look it up, Pat. I think Shelly O'Malley. I don't know. So whatever. But she's in her 20s, right? And she's like, I'm 50 years old. And she's doing kicks with her legs. And... Anyway, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. I am getting over a slight cold. Well, no, it was actually a good cold because the kids do that to you, as you know. And
the little petri dishes.
Oh my gosh, the amount of snot that can come out of a 3 and 1 year old over the course of a day is amazing. So,
do you have one of those nettle kettles?
I have one of those battery operated booger suckers that stick around the nose and sucks everything out.
They're so nasty, but afterwards it's like, so when you go snorkeling or scuba diving, you come out and you have water just seeping into your nose, and it's like the most relieving feeling. Doing a farmer's blow. It's kind of gross, but the fish like it. Yeah, dude, have we talked since I came back from BVI?
No. It was the last time we talked at any length was maybe January.
What, were you on duty?
I had a bunch of stuff going on between January to now, so I had yes, the short answer, and between tax time too, that gets a little busy for me. Not that I'm a tax guy, but it impacts me. So
people call you up and say, "Hey, should I sell?"
That kind of stuff, right? Because people are trying to limit the impact of taxes on what's going on. So having to work with their CPAs or their tax person to get the numbers right for contributions or whatever. So a lot of that. And then I was working on a little special project for Uncle Sam. That got finished. And then, well, a bunch of things. I had to go to an NCOES school, which was like a couple weeks. And then I got a little special project that was cool. And then I got an opportunity to go to Fort Carson in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
God's country.
Southern Colorado. Say again?
It's God's country. Can you hear me?
Yes, right.
God's country.
Very
that
pretty.
Place is so beautiful. I mean, if it wasn't for the hippies and the fact that it's not near a beach, I would live there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. There's no water as far as the beach is concerned anywhere near here. I mean, there's lakes and stuff.
I have an aunt that lives out there. She was a librarian, and she retired. And yeah, it's gorgeous out there. Holy moly! Did you get to go to the Red Rock?
Not yet. So I'm still here.
Oh, you're still there?
Yeah. So they asked. So I'm really trying to get my next rank, so to speak, and then quickly go for the next one after that, which would be the Sergeant Major, which would be the last one. Like, got to get to the mountaintop. Anyways, there's something called a broadening assignment that looks really good on your record, if you will. Like, you didn't do everything just inside your job expertise. You did something outside of it, right? And that's exactly what this is. But I got a lot of flexibility as far as like time. And the unit, it's a soldier recovery unit where soldiers come from all over They could be coming from Korea. They could be coming from Syria. They could be coming from Fort Carson. They basically come here to heal and either transition back to the military or to their line unit, or they're going to be leaving the military and they're getting ready to get out because of whatever injury they suffered.
So is it physical or mental or
all
both?
of it,
Or
everything. Yeah.
Did
You
you
can see
did
anything here from behavioral health challenges to substance abuse challenges to a physical challenge as a result of training or accident or what have you, whatever, or enemy action. So
right?
that too. Although it's not nearly now what it was 10 years ago when we had soldiers in large numbers in different places doing a lot of things. And so
That's really great that they're. I wish the Marine Corps did stuff like that, because when I got back, I was just angry.
Oh yeah, totally. There's a lot of history behind it. Not to get into all that, but there's a lot of fallout about because the Army wasn't really, the services in general weren't ready to take care of a bunch of people who were getting hurt as a result of military operations when Iraq and Afghanistan kicked off. So there's a lot of fallout when things weren't going quite right, and at the end of it came out what was then called the Warrior Transition Unit, and now that name got changed to the Soldier Recovery Unit. And it's definitely, they try to bring together social workers, nurse case managers, occupational therapists, all the relevant disciplines to marshal a injured service person from wherever they're at to getting back to the service, getting back to their unit, or getting ready to transition out.
Getting rid of the.
It's really cool, and it's guard and reserve too. So whatever their status might be.
Yeah, I mean, you go reserve, you get pushed over there for a couple months, 6 months to a year. You're going to see some shit, and yeah, I mean, you got to. What they did not offer us when we went over there, they told us we were expecting the Republican Guard to be like this top-notch, super crazy-ass Strack unit, to use an Army term. We were expecting 50,000 casualties from our troops every day. That's what we were told. So we were expected to go in 2 or 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. So we were always on alert. We were in Okinawa. This is during desert staging, whatever the fuck it was. And
Desert Shield.
Yeah, whatever that was. And, it was a 72-hour war. It lasted how long? We went through, killed them all, destroyed them all. But in our minds, we were like getting ready to go. And, my biggest regret is that I never saw combat. I'm grateful on the logical side, but on my brainwash side, it's like, dude, sure. I lost out. I was not given the opportunity I went to the Marine Corps for. And that's a ghost that I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life, because I'm not going in the Army. Nothing personal. It's just I'm never going to go in the Army. And the Marines don't want me. So there you go.
Yeah, and what you described, I think that's a common challenge, actually, for sure.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it's awesome that you're authentic enough, if you will, to just openly share that. That's really cool. Because I know there's a lot of service personnel, Army, Navy, whatever the branch, who have those kind of similar, I guess, challenges, if you will.
Right. I mean, so just yesterday, we got a report. It was 2 days ago. We got a report. One of my Marines, he was close personal friend of mine. We would go. So we were the sergeants 3. It was Bob, Henry, and Vito. And Bob moved over to Florida. Bob was with, I think, 1-3 during Desert Storm, and he saw some shit, and they never deprogrammed him. So he was always a little bit, but that was the fun of him, because he was wild, crazy, he was fun. So we always kind of hung out with him. And I was the mortar man, Henry's the machine gun, and Bob was the assault man. So we represented weapons platoon. And he came to our unit after he checked out of active duty and went to reserves. and he hung out with us, and we became friends with him because he's crazy fun. He was always having fun, but the staff never liked him. He was always a pain in the ass. He became a police officer out of Pittsburgh, and he just didn't fit in there. So we went to Tulsa, didn't really fit in there, and then he moved over to Florida. Well, he kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it's like, Bob, you need to unfuck yourself. And I don't know if I've ever told you these stories, but he would do all sorts of crazy stuff. It got to the point where, like, dude, you're not 20 fucking years old anymore. You got to put your fucking big boy boots on and start acting like a fucking adult. He's like, fuck you, man. And you can talk to him. And the last time we saw him, I was in Savannah. Henry flew out to Savannah with me because he's my ride or die, right? He flies everywhere. He's a retired deputy. And so we were there, and we invited Bob to show up, and he's down in Florida. So by the time he showed up, he already doused a fifth of vodka, and he was a complete liberty risk, right? And he just kept on getting in trouble. He disappeared, this and that. It was just this nightmare. So I'm like, okay, we're done with him. We don't hang out with Bob anymore. We love him, but he's a fucking liberty risk, dude. You're going to get me in jail. I'm not. Kept on getting worse and worse and worse. And all of a sudden he's on social, on Facebook, on YouTube, on everything, talking about, 3-4 months ago, one of his sons, he had 6 kids. One of his sons, 2 marriages, 3 each. One of them died from overdose. Another one, that was from the first marriage. Another one got into the religious thing. He got into a religious altercation with 2 other people in a Circle K and stabbed these 2 guys. So he's in jail. Well, all of a sudden,
the son did the stabbing. Yeah.
Allegedly, but okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So then he goes fucking haywire. No, my son's innocent. He was defending himself, blah, 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 blah. And he got into it with the deputies, got into it with the sheriff, and all of a sudden he's on social talking shit about the fucking sheriff. Dude, you don't talk shit about fucking people that can put you down. Common sense would say. But, we're kind of hands off now because we already disassociate ourselves with him because he's a liberty risk. We love him. We're just not going to hang out with him anymore because every time we get around with him, we get very close to going to jail. It's not worth it. I'm not, some fun shit, but I'm not willing to go to jail when I'm this, I'm just not for stupid shit.
Yeah.
So I've always been very straight and narrow. And so he's getting into it with the sheriff, and he's leaving voicemails with the sheriff, and he's sending emails, threatening emails saying, you're a fraud, you're blah, blah, whatever. I don't know. I didn't really watch. And Henry and the rest of my list of Marines that I keep in touch was like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with Bob? What the fuck what about Bob? Like that movie, right?
Yeah.
So 2 nights ago.
Oh, recent update.
No. And this has been going on. And it went like when we're right here. We're like here. Da, 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 da. He's like, okay. He's like, and all of a sudden he starts fucking going crazy. He starts taking all of his shit out of his house, all of his personal property, and he's yelling and screaming at the neighbors. He's doing videos on YouTube. He's in the middle of the street, blocking traffic, yelling at his camera. And I'm doing this more for my therapy because it's really affecting me. I'm telling everybody I know. And so all of a sudden, it's not domestic violence, domestic disturbance or disturbance of the whatever. Somebody calls, some crazy dude's out in the street yelling at a camera. Sheriffs come by. It's a female deputy, and he unzips and all sorts of shit. And then she's trying to calm him down. She's calling for backup. And next thing you know, it's an 8-hour standoff.
Oh my gosh.
In a house I've been to. I've been in that house many times. I was hanging out with his wife and his kids. The kids are all grown up and gone. But he's just like, well, his wife, like a couple of weeks ago, said, enough. Called her dad. He flew from wherever and picked her up, drove her home. Got her out of there because she felt endangered.
Guess she was right. Sounds like it.
So how come we're not calling the VA? How come we're not calling all this stuff? Well, anyway, it's not my business anymore.
Sounds like a mental health challenge for sure.
So It's on the news. You can look it up. I'll send you the link. But if you're watching at home, you can look it up. 8 hour standoff, and they wound up getting one of those EOD robots with rubber bullets, and they put a couple bullets into him, rubber bullets, knocked him down, and he went down kicking and screaming. And I could see where he needs to be put on meds. I love the guy dearly. I wish the best for him. I hope and pray that he gets better.
Yes, help
But
he needs. Yeah.
back in my day, we didn't have that deprogramming thing stuff that was going on. I've always been saying that we need that kind of stuff. I don't know if does the Marine Corps have anything like that?
I believe they do have a type of warrior transition unit as well. I don't know exactly what they call it, but again, a lot of this is a result of the lessons learned in the early years of GWAT and guys coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq. And those are big scandals about the barracks they're getting put in, and kind of help they're getting, because the military just wasn't good at it. They hadn't done it since Vietnam, right? So none of those people were really around anymore. So and they weren't. I don't know. I don't think they're that great at it then, probably either.
They didn't know what they were doing back then, right? I mean, how many
Exactly.
freaking Vietnam vets do we have that are off the freaking hook? I mean, dude, with Noah vet, we talk about that stuff all the time. It's like, how can we get these guys help? How do we?
Yeah.
And a big portion of them are like, I don't want to deal with the VA. I don't want to deal with the VA. I don't want to deal with the VA.
I mean, I don't want to deal with the VA unless I have to, and if I have to, I will, because they have a lot of resources.
Right. But a lot of people, it's just them fessing up to what their issues are, and we all have issues, right? And to me, I feel like it's hard for me to give up that ghost to this day. And I will talk about it till my dying day, because hopefully it might save somebody's life. But there's other people that have seen stuff like we couldn't imagine, like babies being blown up and what have you. And how can you even imagine something like that? And then your best friend lying next to you being dead. And it affects people, right? It doesn't matter how brainwashed you are, you're going to be affected by it, because you're not brainwashed to deal with it. You're brainwashed to get it done.
Right.
And I don't know what it's like in Army boot camp, basic training.
Yeah.
But we were like broken down into little lumps of clay and turned into Marines. It's all a freaking brainwashing. And I'm completely cool with it. I agree with what they do, because you need people that go out there and do nasty stuff.
That's right.
But we did not during Desert Storm have that deprogramming thing, and that was my problem. So maybe I should go talk to somebody about that.
And I don't even know if maybe that is the right term. I'd say like there's so much about military service, whether you're a Marine or an Armyman, Navyman, whatever it is, that embodies all the things that you would want in a good community member, right? You want to build a solid foundation, a solid community, and people helping each other and looking out for each other. A lot of the things that are implied with service are directly in alignment with that.
Right. You need to depend on the person next to you, right? No matter what. If I know I'm tying my shoe, I know you there watching my back. Period. We don't get that in the civilian world. And that's part of my anger, How come these civilian pukes can't deal with this, right? It's like, come on, don't be so hard.
I think part of it on the civilian side is like is the fact that the advent of technology and the growth of technology and all the amazing things we have at our disposal now makes it so much easier for people to come home and never leave their house from work, right? So they don't need to interact with their neighbors. They don't need to go to the community stuff. They just don't have a sense of community. Yeah. And so
it's super. So as of late, I've been going out mindfully to be out and be social. And it's something that I prefer not to do, but so I do it with friends. And like last night, I went to a golf course. They had a band playing and some drinks and whatever. And I only drink when I'm on vacation. So I'm not a liberty risk because I'm a lightweight. But like another buddy of mine, he's a guy that talked me into joining the Marine Corps. He loves to drink. So he loves taking me wherever because I'm the designated driver.
Hell yeah.
So And
I
like,
love drinking too. I just, frankly, I mean, I'm half Mexican and Irish on the other side, so makes for a thirsty man. And as I gotten older, it doesn't call me anymore. Although I don't, I guess specifically since I've had kids, like I just don't have the urge to drink anymore at all. But once in a while,
because you're exhausted,
yeah, it's
right?
just I don't know. I think I don't need the distraction anymore.
Yep.
That's what was it for me. Going to get drunk or going to have some drinks is a great distraction from whatever I'm trying to avoid. Right.
I think there's nothing wrong with it as long as you don't do it habitually, right? I mean,
Right. Exactly. Totally. And I think in my case, I was probably a little habitual. Not like I was drunk all the time or anything, but I don't get hangovers, so the propensity to binge drink was high. So I probably drank
dude,
much
you're
more than I
so
needed to.
fucking lucky, dude. I can have
No,
5 beers and be hungover for like 3 days. I'm such
really?
a wuss, dude.
No,
Um,
yeah. Anyways,
yeah. So, I mean, I can pack it away, right? I can douse a 12 pack of beer and not think about it. I don't do it because I want to. I don't do it just because I'm just keeping up. It could be an all day session, right? So I have no desire to do that, mostly because remember what we were talking about when we had JP, the veteran coach, on?
yeah, great guy.
The plug.
Yeah,
It's all about departmentalizing your life into what's good, what's bad, what you need to work on, and taking those things and further breaking them down like an engineer would into this massive component. You could take a microphone or a phone. Everything gets broken down into its component form. It's part products, right? From an adapter to a connector to an integrated circuit to power supply, everything, right? Well, you have to be able to take each and every one of those and figure out how to design it into a cell phone or what have you, a computer. It's the same thing with your life. And that's how I kind of figured that out is like I took everything, mental, physical, spiritual, education, life, emotional, all these different things into like plates. And I don't tackle just one. I look at each individual one when I'm ready to, and then I work on it and I make it a little bit better. And then I go back and spin that next plate. I go to emotional, blah, blah, blah. The same thing with drinking alcohol, the same thing with my diet, right? It's like I knew I needed to get back into shape because 5 years ago I was hobbling around with bad hips. I thought I needed surgery. I went to go see a physical therapist and she's like, no, dude, you just need to stretch and you need to get back into shape. So I started losing weight and I started working on the physical strength part, not trying to be a meathead, but just trying to get strong. And then I started working on my diet, started working on mindset. And now today I'm close to 40 pounds off of my heaviest weight.
wow, right on, man. Yeah, and last time I saw you, you did look great. You look, like you've been taking care of business.
Yeah.
So,
And then I went to British Virgin Islands and drank like a fish for 2 weeks, and that was awesome too.
I mean, that's part of the joy of life, though, right? So
Micro goals. That's what I say. When I go to the gym, it's like, dude, what happened to you? You got so skinny. I'm like, dude, micro goals. You got to treat yourself. So I'm actually going to Costa Rica in July with my ride or die, Henry, and we're going to go play and have fun.
when do you and the wife go play?
We don't do that anymore. Yeah.
I'm gonna back away from that one.
Yeah, back away from that one. So anyway, not like everybody's life is perfect, right? Nobody's life is perfect.
Nobody's life is perfect. Ain't that the truth?
Um,
Ain't that the truth?
So I have a couple
Right.
things we can talk about now that we did a 25-minute intro.
I know, and I'm really glad we're doing this again because there's so much to cover in the coming weeks and months and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to get back on it with you, man.
So we could talk about trusts and why they're important and having those instructions written out. I have a very good story about it because it happened to me. Or we could talk about what else did you want to talk about? There was something else on the tip of my
I
tongue.
don't know, man. We could talk about that right there. That sounds like a good one to me.
All right. So I'm second generation North American, I guess you can say. I was born in Canada. My mom and dad were born in Europe, during
hold it
war-torn
against them.
World War II, blah, blah, blah. My mom grew up um, super poor. Like they would make fat soup and they thought it was a good thing. They would put vegetables and fat into soup. And
Hey man,
that
when
was their
you're
meal.
poor, man, that's good stuff.
Po as po.
Hell yeah.
So it was my mom and my older aunt and my older uncle, Tony, Aida, and Ingrid. Well, they came to Canada, immigrated to Canada, and then my aunt Aida moved to California. She met Doug, and then Tony met or had Maria from way back when in Austria, and then my mom met Vittorio, the sperm donor. We're not going to go into that anyway. So Uncle Tony was a plumber. He learned a trade. He did very well for himself. He worked for Honeywell, and he was like a very sought after plumber. And my mom, um, kind of bounced around from job to job. She struggled because we were divorced and what have you. Well, Aida married Doug, and Doug became a banker, kind of like John, my cousin John. We interviewed him
Yep.
a couple times, and he made a huge name for himself. And they took him over to Wells Fargo and made him like an Uber VP in Silicon Valley, and he did a ton of the jobs there here, like
This is your uncle now, right?
my uncle
Yeah.
through marriage.
Yeah.
And then he was so good at turning around San Jose, Silicon Valley, that they moved him up to Portland. And the banker up there, the guy that was in charge of the banking up there, had $1 million profit when they booted him out, put Doug in place. And by the time he retired, it was $54 million profit just for Portland.
Wow.
He hustled his ass off. And he retired at like 76, 77 or whatever. So, and he was a little bit big, and because he was taking 3-4 lunches every night, every day, because he hustled, took people out to lunch. Well, when he retired, his body started deteriorating, and he passed away 3 weeks ago. Yeah, we knew it was coming because he had heart attack and was in and out of the hospital. So
How long
last
did he
week,
get to enjoy retirement?
about 12, 15 years. So he got to really enjoy it. There's another story too. Enjoy your life now, guys, because 84, 85 is just around the corner, whether you like it or not, if you're lucky enough to live that long. So I went up last week to go be with my aunt to keep her company because the entire family is rotating through. My mom's up there this week. My aunt actually went down to Pasadena to be with my cousin. So she's, we're keeping her busy because she needs to go through the healing process of her husband of 60 years. Right. I mean, it's a huge loss.
Wow. Yeah, it's a long time.
But Doug was always, I got it handled. I've gotten taken care of. Don't worry about it. When I die, you'll be fine. But he didn't leave explicit instructions. As a matter of fact, I spent an entire day digging around the entire house for all the paperwork, the trust, the accountant. I had to go dig all over the place. And I didn't do it frantically. It was like, I was kind of moving at it, but I finally found the trust, handed that over to her. And then I found the accountant because you need to settle out the estate. You need to be able to get this stuff registered with our master. And guys, if you're listening, the only thing I could tell you is have a trust. How about explicit instructions on how you want things handled? Not just who gets what, but what do you want to do with the car? What do you want to do with the house? What do you want to do with the, whatever, all these different little things that we're picking up pieces now, trying to figure out what to do. And I'm kind of the person that she asked me to out of the entire family to help with it, because this is what I do. I help people understand the process of probate and trustee sales and all this other stuff. And it just goes so much deeper because she doesn't know where all the accounts are. And they did really well for themselves over the years, right? I mean, Doug busted his ass and he had a lot of money, deservingly so. So he has to find out where the the deeds are. I have to go find out where all this stuff is. I have to go call the insurance companies, all this stuff. And I know a lot of it's automated, but it just needs to get wrapped up so we can give it to the lawyer so he can settle out the estate and make things hunky dory. So if you're listening to this, write out your explicit wishes and requirements in plain English. Have a trust. Tell your people where your money is, what the account numbers are, what your credit card numbers are, what the phone companies are, all these different things. Because if you die and you don't know, we're stuck having to undig. I mean, it's going to come through. It's going to take time to come through. But why not just put it all in one place? Because she doesn't know if all the money's in the accounts that she has in her hands. Right. It could have been.
This is, I'd say this is even getting even more important as like financial stuff gets more sophisticated. Meaning, like it's not like back in the day where you just had your neighborhood bank, right?
Right.
And it's pretty simple to figure out where everything was at for the most part. But now things are just much more sophisticated and complicated. You got your neighborhood bank, you got the national banks, you got online banks,
you got international banks,
you got apps, you got crypto, you got you name it. And all these things have passwords and tokens and it's just all kinds of stuff, right? So it can get super, super tedious probably to get all that stuff down. But what's the options? What happens if you don't? I think
what happens if Doug bought 100 Bitcoins and he had it tucked away in some kind of ETF vault?
Yeah.
He doesn't nobody has a password.
Nobody has a password. That's not an uncommon thing. There's famous stories and stuff like that, right? As an example. And just kind of speaks to the human nature though. It's like I've even fought this now that I've been married for 4 years. I've always dealt with things as an individual and never had to be concerned myself with a spouse and now 2 kids. And it's just a complete different world.
Yep.
And so, but it's great because I get to now really understand people better that I work with. Whereas before it was just much more intellectual as opposed to, knowing it myself, if you will.
Intellectual in theory except for now it's all real practical app and empathy. Now you have actual empathy.
Exactly.
Right. And I mean, I've been on that treadmill touting trusts, and I don't make any money off of trust. I can give a shit if you get a trust.
Yeah.
The only thing I want you to do is get a trust for yourself because I cannot write it. I'm not a lawyer. I have no vested interest in it other than telling you and hoping that if you unfortunately pass before your loved ones, you give you avoid so much uncertainty and cloud. We're taught cloud of war, right? Cloud of war. The minute the first bullet's fired over your head or the bomb blows up near you, you're in a fog, right? So you have to rely on muscle memory. Well, for trust and end of life, you have to have it all written out. And when your loved ones are in a fog because you passed on and they're dealing with guilt and remorse and loss and all this other stuff, having that shit written out, guys, it's not that hard. And I hate to say it, but life, there's 2 things that are certain. It's death and taxes, and you better figure it out how to get through both of them. Yeah.
It's best if you own property. I mean, and you don't have to own property for this to be a thing. Like you don't have to have much going on for yourself in order to warrant a trust, or at least written instructions, right, that you signed out in the will. Because
the minute you have it, a living trust is amendable. You can actually add to it and subtract to it. If you sell a property, you take it out. You buy a property, you put it in.
And I had an exact experience with this myself. Let's bring it to living trust, and this is good for California people. My grandmother and grandfather, they're actually my great aunt and great uncle, but they adopted my mom so that she could immigrate from Mexico to the United States. And they bought a home back in I think early 60s, maybe late 50s in East Los Angeles, Lincoln Heights. And they're just these classical old Latino neighborhoods now, right? Which are starting to get gentrified, of course. But they bought this house for whatever they bought it for, and it was paid off since
$20,000.
I think they paid off like in the 80s, probably.
Yeah.
If not before that. Old home, but it's a family home, and a lot of people travel through there coming to the United States that they helped to to do that with. So a lot of history was in that home. Anyways, her husband passed away. Amazing man who I love dearly, and then she was left alone, and she didn't last too many years after that. But when she passed away, they were born in late 20s, early 30s, and so they lived very under their means. And she had I don't know, several thousands of dollars in her closet. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was a lot. I was like, holy cow, that's a lot of money to have in your closet, Jesus. But that's the era, right? Anyways, didn't owe anybody anything, no debt, zero, nothing. But there was no trust, and there was no living trust. And so it went to probate court. And it took approximately, I want to say around a year for it to clear probate when there was no issues, there was no claims or anything like that. There was zero complications. So it's the simplest probate case you could possibly come up with, I would imagine. And it still took almost a year. And I think the fees, now this is early 2000. So the fees at that point it came out to just shy of $20,000. I want to say it was $19,000, something like that. This is 2004 or 5, something like that. So I can only imagine what that is now. And that's how people lose properties. So the love we had for this home, the history that was in it, a lot of people, right? They don't have this $20,000, right? Maybe the house isn't quite paid off. So guess what? You still got to make that payment. Can't rent it out. Can't do any of those things. Can't sell it. Can't do those things, right? That's how you lose a house, because now you got to pay these probate fees, right? Because they're not going to wait for that money. They want that money right away. Anyways, all of that could have been avoided through a few $100 probably then. Maybe I'm sure it's more than that. That's probably about a couple $1,000s for a simple living trust.
Yeah.
So
that's a good, I mean, if you pay more for it, you might be getting shysted, but then you're feeling better about it.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
It's better to spend $3,000 on a trust than $20,000 or $30,000 in probate court.
Absolutely. Now that the peace of mind, like you said, like with a good estate attorney who's going to set up your trust and go through all the things that you would want to have in place. I mean, it's just going to deliver so much peace of mind that you have all your directions and wishes are set up, right? Yep. Final directives are there, and everything is done. There's no guessing no more. And how much of a relief is that to the family that's really behind? So they don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I have a document on my Google Docs. I know it's not protected, blah, 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 but it has all my passwords, all my links, all my blah, 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 has everything, all my accounts, everything, because if I'm dead, it's there for me. It's there for my kids, right? They know how to pull shit out and get a hold of it. And that's important. The trust is a legal document that instructs the legal entities, the government, the tax man, everybody else, how to disperse funds and the banks, because the banks will not give you access to your parents' bank account until you have power of attorney or you're a trustee of that trust, and then you have access to it. And by the way, you have to have your account number inside that trust in order for it to work. So what's going on with my aunt right now? She's got, I don't know, let's say $20,000 a month burn rate, right? She can afford it. It's not like, it's a lot of money, but she has 3 houses, mortgages, all this other stuff, plus she's traveling, and let's just say it's $10,000 a month burn rate. If you have a bank account with $50,000 in it that you have access to, and everything else is tied up in probate, you're fucked. You can talk to the bank for a loan, and they'll gladly give you a loan on interest, but then that's just another hassle that you have to dick around with instead of somebody taking the time ahead of time, because again, you are going to die. You might as well handle it. Put on your big boy boots.
Yeah. And people want to avoid that short-term. I think it's an avoidance of short-term pain. Like, paying $2,000 to somebody, having to sit down and go through all that. None of that sounds fun, right? However, it creates a long-term or a future pain for everybody else, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, the way I talk, so every time I sell a house to a buyer, I go, okay, everything's done. Now the last thing you have to worry about, and I know you're not going to do it, I'll call you in a couple months to ask you if you've done it or not, is get a trust.
Yeah.
Here's my guys. I don't care if you use them. You can go use Johnny Come Lately. You can use Patty O'Malley. I don't give a shit, right?
But get
I don't
somebody.
honestly get it done. It costs, and you can get a paralegal to write up a basic trust. You own a house now. If you don't do it, your parents don't know how to handle it in case you die. God forbid, knock on wood. I hope nothing ever happens to you. But if it does, you're going to give written documentation on how to handle all of the stuff that you own. And it's going to be so much easier for people to pick up the pieces when they're ready to, instead of having to spend extra hours. I spent a whole freaking day. I knew what I was looking for. Right. And my aunt was just like wallowing and.
Yeah. And this is going to be an increasing problem. Like, the baby boomer generation, which is like the generation still, where a lot of wealth is accumulated, and rightfully so. As they become older and start to pass away, they don't have these things in place. You just hear more and more of these challenges come up, more and more of these challenges come up. Or what about, forget about even death? How about just incapacitated? Right? You don't have things set up right. That is all bad. It creates all kinds of problems. Right? When you can't speak for yourself.
We talked about my mother-in-law and my grandfather-in-law passed away within 2 or 7 days of each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the grandfather had a trust. He had everything lined up. He told us that there was some money in the closet, but the closet had it was like an 18, 20-foot closet, and it was just jam-packed full of clothes. And we went through everything. We couldn't find anything. That doesn't matter. The mother-in-law, they didn't have a trust. She had early onset Alzheimer's and dementia, and she cost tens of thousands of dollars because she got kicked out of care facilities. And when she was home, they had day attendants there to help her out, and she was verbally and physically abusive to him. So they were rotating through, and he was just spending money hand over fist to take care of her because he had to work, and he just financially ruined him. So if you have something like a trust that's set up with directives, it's going to give Medicare a lot more leeway to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to think of the most recent person I've known, or family or client that has gone through the process and what they paid. It has varied a bit because you can. I think that you already mentioned you can get some very basic documents for not very much. It could be, I think, as low as $1,500 to $1,800. You can get some very basic documents done. But that's, I would say if you're going to take the time, you might as well spend the money and get it all done right. And that could take $2,000-$3,000, if not $4,000, depending on how big the estate is and what's going on. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say exactly what those costs are, but I think that's right around what you're looking at. Is it worth it? Hell yes. And can you update them? Hell yes. And you should, because things do change. That's probably another problem. Just because you have it doesn't mean it should never be maintained or updated. That's like the second challenge that happens, right?
If you have a family trust, you should have a meeting with your family, including your trustors, every year or two to say, this is updated, this is where we are, these are the instructions. My kids are at the age now where I can actually have those conversations with them. So now they're going to be more aware of what happens if I die in a plane crash, knock on wood, right?
Or swashbuckling the 7 seas.
Yeah. Because shit happens, right? Shit happens all the time. You just got to be ready for it. So the other thing is you can go to staples.com and download trust blah, blah, blah for $100. It doesn't matter. You can go to a paralegal. It costs you $200, $300, $400. You're not going to get the advice from a lawyer to understand every step and procedure and all that other stuff. And that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the experience, the knowledge, and the education that they have on how to coach you through the entire process. The same reason why you have a financial planner, same reason why you have a real estate agent. It's not that it only took him 5-10 hours to sell a house. It's because it took me 20 years of understanding it and educating and knowledge, how to negotiate and how to make sure that you win. That's what you pay for. And if you want to pay $250, go ahead.
Yeah. At your own risk, I'd say. Sure.
Your own risk.
Your own risk.
So.
Yeah, you don't want to save. That's not a place to save. That's not a place to cut corners and try to save money at all. You don't, just like you wouldn't try to get the cheapest doctor, right? Yeah, you just don't want to do it.
I don't know, man. That fucking health insurance is killing me. Property insurance.
Yeah, buddy. It doesn't get cheaper. With every year, it goes up as you get older.
Oh man, it is ridiculous. Okay, so I don't know if I told you or even told you live, but for a while, I was like really just wanting a little piece of crap car to fart around in because I'm getting, 13, 14. Yeah, they're great, dude. You should have it. You should keep it.
This thing is awesome. I got a 2011 Honda Civic Hybrid.
Keep it.
And this thing runs great. It's great on gas. I just throw miles on it and just keeps on going.
Keeps on going.
It's got little dings on it and stuff, and it's perfect. It's perfect.
I have a 2017 Chevy Silverado 1500 two-wheel drive, 4-door, big cab, big.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful truck.
But it's got dings in it. It's got scratches in it. And guess what? I just spent $6,000 on a new fucking transmission.
I do miss having a truck, though. I think that might be the next one I might get. The truck.
So what you do is you go out and buy a 1980s truck and fix it up, put money into it, and make it look nice, and reupholster it, redo the electrical, and redo the engine. But the money you spend on that is love compared to.
Jesus. I'm surprised it wasn't more, actually. I'm surprised it was not more.
And then you have your Civic, your little Honda hybrid Civic that you fart around in, and who cares? Yeah. Nobody gives a shit. And that's what I've been looking around for. But here's my thinking. It was like, but I want a convertible because I live in California. I can afford it because I did really well last year. But I start looking around. I don't want to spend $123,000 or $130,000 on a brand new Lexus convertible. But I do want a Lexus because it's a Toyota product or a Honda product. It doesn't matter. And it's a convertible. Oh, and I want the Lexus and not the Toyota because the Lexus is a hardtop convertible versus the ragtop.
Here we go.
Okay. So now they're at like $10,000 a piece, which, that's a lot of money, but for a car, it's not. You can get them up to like 15 grand. But it's a used car and it's old, like 2010 to 2015. That's what you're looking at. So you're looking at anything from 8 to 14 years old. So I'm like, hey, Rose, we call it my insurance company. I'm like, hey, Rose, can you quote me out a 2010 Lexus convertible IS 350? That's the higher end V6 because I wanted $200 a month. $200 a month for insurance on a fucking car that costs $10,000.
Jesus Christ. Oh man.
So guess where I am with my car search?
On the Civics?
No, I don't know. So my last kid, my youngest, actually Angie's, I don't know, can't remember anymore. Angie's my middle one. She's the last one to get the license and she's getting her test next week. And so I have to save up money to buy her a car. And she wants a Tacoma, which is a truck, Toyota product. I won't let her buy Chevy anymore.
Wow.
$10,000.
I had a GMC truck, man, that almost went half a million miles and ran great. Anyway,
what year?
2001 GMC 1500. And I'd still have it if it didn't get stolen and stripped. Which I couldn't believe they stole and stripped a 2001 GMC, but apparently they do that.
There's an idea.
I think still ran great. 480 miles, 480,000 miles. All I put into it was brakes, oil, and it did go through 3 fuel pumps for whatever reason, man. It went to
Doesn't matter. Guess how many miles I had on my 2017 Chevy Silverado 1500?
How many?
83,000.
What?
Where I had to replace the transmission. And you know
Wow.
what the dealership told me?
Something you failed to do.
No.
What'd they say?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's out of warranty. Fuck you. Go away. We can do it
Wow.
for you. I'm like, fuck you. I'm not gonna let you touch my car.
Jesus,
I
man.
Yeah, dude. Never. I'm never buying a Chevy ever again. Sorry,
Wow.
Chevy. You fucked yourself.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's your car. There's your Chevy endorsement of the day.
I have a good friend that has Mercedes and BMWs, and he loves them, and he knows that he has to spend money on them every year. He's like, dude, I just know I have to spend at least $2,000 a year to keep these things running, but I love them. It just doesn't make sense. Why aren't you buying a Honda or a Toyota? I
Yeah,
don't buy the other ones. They're fine, but
not
they're
his values. That's not his
ask a
value.
mechanic what they spend the most time on and how much what they make the most money off of. And I can guarantee you, it's not Toyota or Honda.
No, my brother had a BMW, very nice car. This was like late 2008 or 9, 10, something like that. Anyways, it was always something wrong with it. He bought new. There was always something wrong with it. There was always something. He had to go take it in, and there's always something. I
Yep.
swear.
Yep.
He'll tell you the same thing.
Same thing with the Jaguar. Like my aunt and uncle, yeah, they have two Jaguars. They're older. One's a convertible. One's just a regular. And this is not working. That's not working. I had to fix a flat tire. That was a whole debacle. Of course, because I didn't know where all the tools were, right? He had tons of tools, but I just didn't know where the tools were. He has like a 2000 Navigator. He's got a 1980s Bronco, which is badass, but it's taken
Oh, yeah.
apart. It needs to be fixed. And then they have a Cadillac, which is just, dude, it's the epitome of the definition of why you don't buy an American car. It was a Cadillac, and I swear it's like 20 years old. But every indicator light that could be on, check engine to oil to whatever, was blinking. It had the little onboard computer. It was like, this is wrong with it. This is wrong with it. This is wrong with it. Okay, so maybe they didn't maintain it that well, but at the same time, if that was a Honda, that thing would continue to run. And yeah, you might have to do a fuel pump or a water pump, but you know what? The engine is going to be good for 300, 400,000 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox there.
I hope you feel better.
This is all therapeutic for me, man.
But anybody who happened to listen, like they're probably not in agreement with you though. So you have that,
Look, I bought a Chevy because the Sergeants 3 were all talking. We got together. Bob, Henry, and Vito got together one day somewhere. I can't remember. We were all drinking. Oh, we're all going
That's
to
where
get
you
a
went wrong.
Chevy Silverado truck. And sure enough, Bob had an old beat up one. And then I
Yeah.
bought the 2017. And then Henry bought a 2017. Exact same color, 4-door, same size bed, everything, except for he had to fucking taught me by getting 4-wheel drive.
Oh man.
So I don't blame him. I would have got 4-wheel drive. And
Well, if you got the 4-wheel drive, that repair bill would have been even higher.
yeah, well, whatever.
Anyways,
You got to go.
soon. But I wanted to see if there's anything else I wanted to say about what we talked about. The trust. Yeah, I think most of it's because people think that they don't need it. It's for people who are wealthy,
Mm-mm.
or it costs too much, or they don't have the time. Well, no, it's not just for the wealthy. If you own property, that's enough, right? For
Dude,
sure.
if you own credit cards and have a bank account over
If you have,
$50,000, which I know a
that's
lot of
right.
Americans don't, if you have cars, absolutely, because
Yeah,
the
that's which is
probate
fine,
man's going to come
right there.
take it away from you.
All that stuff. It does not cost too much compared to the cost that's going to be incurred on the back end. It's pennies on the dollars. and maybe you don't have time, and it's worth it to make the time, right? It's just
If
this.
you don't, I tell my sister this all the time. If you don't have the money, you have the time,
That's right. That's right.
right? Because she does real estate. She's like, oh, I need deals. I'm like, okay, well, here's 5 things you can do right now if you have more time than money. Go knock on doors, call people, go network, call agents from other areas saying, hey, I live in Vegas. If you're sending somebody over to Vegas, give me a call. I'd love to, right? That takes 2 minutes, 2-minute conversation.
That's right. Yeah, man. Glad we got back on. A lot of stuff more to talk about. Some changes towards the end of last year. I know we talked briefly about the changes that happened in the real estate industry. Changes that are happening in the financial industry. I have a lot of new things I'm working on this year too, so I'm excited to share that stuff with you. Get your feedback, and yeah, it's gonna be an interesting year with the markets and stuff, and election coming up, and all those things. So, and there's a lot of developments in technology that'll impact people's portfolios too. That'd be really cool to talk about too over the coming years. So there's endless things to talk about.
I want to learn more about this whole AI thing in buying stocks.
Yep, all over it, baby.
All right, dude, we need to do this like once a week. I know it's hard, but we need.
Oh yeah, I think I'm down to do that again now. So now that I created the space to do it, I gotta get a better camera though. My camera does not look as good as yours, and I gotta get a microphone again.
I have the Logitech Logi 1080p camera, and that has a great microphone on it. And then I also have an AKG.
Yeah, that sucker's nice, man.
It's a great microphone. It looks retro. You can get whatever one. Spend at least $100 on a microphone. You'll be happy. But the first thing you should buy is the Logitech Logi Logi 1080p. It's like $100, maybe $80 now. Don't get the 4K because you don't need it.
Cool. I'll do that.
All right.
All right, Marine Corps.
Later, Army training, sir.
That's right. Okay, Department of the Navy. We'll see you next time.
Later.
Later.